there, which have a direct link to opioid crisis in the United States and right around the world. Well, joining me now from Albuquerque, New Mexico, is Mike Vigil. He's a former chief of international operations for the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration and has written many books as well about drug cartels. Good evening to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. You've seen that extraordinary report, Stuart Ramsey getting right into the heart of the Sinaloa cartel there. Your reaction to what you've seen?
Well, I'm very familiar with the drug labs that are located in Mexico, but I thought it was an exceptional story simply because a lot of people, when they talk about drug labs in Mexico, they feel that they're like pharmaceutical drug labs with Bunsen burners, beakers, and they're anything but that. You know, they're laboratories that are extraordinarily rustic. They use metal tubs, sometimes wooden paddles, shovels, to mix the precursor chemicals to make fentanyl, heroin, and other drugs. Now, your report was very good in the fact that it showed that most of these drug chemists are very young. They're usually about 18 to 21 years old, and they learned the process of making, for example, fentanyl from skilled chemists.
So I want to ask you, though, as a member of the US DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, people watching this are probably going to say, well, if we could find them, why can't the DAA, why can't they shut them down?
Well, it's simply because a lot of times they'll allow reporters to go and visit these labs, see what they're doing, because reporters are not a threat to them. It's a different story, you know, for law enforcement. And these laboratories don't operate 24/7. They operate in very isolated areas. They dismantle them and move them constantly. So it's, you know, actually two different stories here, but
right.
the thing is
why,
that
because they were in the tent, they can move constantly. I also want to ask you about the fact that, you know, Stuart said that when they, right at the beginning of that report, they're on a boat, and he says that the Mexican Marines don't have the boats to go into those shallow waters. That seems extraordinary that they haven't adapted to that.
Well, they do have the boats. You have to keep in mind when you interview individuals working for a cartel, they're not always going to give you the proper story. But the Mexican Navy does have boats that go into those waters. But most of the chemicals are not found in these little isolated areas. They come in cargo freighters, and many times the Chinese chemical companies will mislabel the precursor chemicals. And then there's also corruption at the Mexican ports. So most of it does, in fact, come into ports of entry. For example, Lázaro Cárdenas, Manzanillo, Veracruz, and from there it gets on the highway into Sinaloa, Jalisco, and other parts of Mexico.
We have just under a minute left till the top of the hour, where we'll show our viewers that report again. I want to ask you, just how big business is this? Describe to our viewers the enormity, how much money, how big an organization is this?
Well, the thing is that the two Mexican cartels, the Sinaloa cartel, Jalisco New Generation cartel, generate approximately $35 billion a year, you know, basically distributing all kinds of drugs. But the primary drug of choice now for them to distribute is fentanyl, because it is a major crisis here in the United States.
Right. Thanks very much indeed, Mike Vigil. I'm so sorry we've run out of time with you. So many more questions. Stay tuned. You're watching Sky News.